and also the defending champion, Robert Gibbs. All right, set for the opening match here, Michael, on lanes 23 and 24. Robert Gibbs threw lots of strikes here a year ago, and he'd like to get back on the same track.
Well, we'll see if he can. Robert takes very little time, hooks the ball quite a bit, although he wasn't hooking it too much in practice.
Yeah, you're right. That's fairly straight for the Texas Twister.
Ronnie Winger is a much more square player. Goes down the boards more, but gets the ball to hook at the back end of the lane. This is his third top 5 appearance in his last 4 tournaments. So he's really found his stroke out here on the senior tour.
Pretty direct player, doesn't cross a lot of boards, hits the pocket a lot, and obviously a very good spare shooter. And we'll find out how good as he leaves the 3-6-10 right off the bat.
Right. Notice on his last practice ball, he missed the head pin. I think this shot here was almost an adjustment for that last practice ball. And there's nothing more unnerving to a bowler than to kind of just suddenly lose it right at the end of the practice session just before you go into competition.
Cross lane at the 3-6-10. Trouble from the very beginning.
And hands Robert Gibbs an 11-pin lead right out of the gate.
Little shake of the head, obviously. Did not want to start game number 1 with an open frame.
Well, we killed him when we said he was a good spare shooter right away.
He's an excellent spare shooter. But anytime you leave 2 or more up there, you're asking for problems. Comes back with a beautiful strike on lane 23, but let us see if Robert Gibbs can take advantage and double up.
As far as the right-handers are concerned, and in practice as I was watching, lane 24 seemed to be the troublesome lane. There were far fewer strikes that I saw anyway on lane 24 than 23.
Plenty of swing. Light hit. Gibbs looked for the shaker, and he ended up getting it.
When I talked to the players about that, I said, is there any difference in this pair? And he said, nope. They said they're the same, so we'll see. Robert Gibbs, we watch him. 4-step player, very little time, pushes and steps, a pretty free swing. Ball's a little bit early. Right there, it's in time, though. You see it right at that point. Now the nice slide here. Kind of stops short with that slide and comes up a little bit, but he's very strong. He gets a lot with his wrist and forearm.
Powerful player. Ball comes off nicely. Dices up the rack, so Gibbs comes out with a variety of strikes and has opened up an early 31-pin lead.
And Ronnie puts Ronnie in a position right now that Winger has to think, this is a very important strike right here. I got to bite into that lead.
Better shot. This one sails. No wonder the last one went left to the head pin.
Yeah, right. The 1-2-10, 1-2-4-10, and if he doesn't make this, Dan, he's going to be 50 pins behind right now. Now watch it follow through. Appears good. Appears the shot was good. Never bit the lane. Never turned over at the end of the lane. Hit the oil and just skidded.
In a must-make situation, and he converts the washout beautifully.
Well, boy, I'll tell you what, if I'm in Ronnie's shoes right now thinking, you know, I just made the 1-2-4-10 to stay 31 behind. I've gone 3-6-10 to 1-2-4-10 on this right lane. What's the adjustment I make?
Great lottery numbers, but you sure don't want to see them when you're bowling.
Right. Don't win many matches with 7s and 6s.
Especially when your opponent is doing nothing but striking.
Light.
Looked like that ball kind of hung up on his hand, Michael, and now he's left with the very same washout that he had on the right-hand lane.
It just appears that he has no swing area at all, and if he misses a board to the right, it's not going to make it. Here's that pivot step, very short pivot step right there. He got the thumb out of that ball, Dan, and the fingers lifted. It just hit that oil, and he was leaked it a little right, and it just never got back. He has to make it again.
Back to back. Close. That's about a 50-50 proposition, though, isn't it?
Just about, yeah. You have to be almost satisfied if you're making that washout half the time. But
Robert,
right now.
Yeah, Robert Gibbs just romping to a victory here in game number 1, especially if he throws a couple more strikes.
Oh, yeah. 46 ahead and can go up by 66 if he strikes twice more.
Oh, wanted that 7-pin to fall. The difference in the game of bowling. Here's a guy that's opening up the lane a little bit. Appears to have a great shot. Ron Winger a little less, as you mentioned, a square type player with the shoulders, not crossing as many boards, and looks like he's lost.
And I'm telling you, 20 minutes ago it was the exact opposite. Watching the two players. Now watch the 5-pin here. The 5-pin's going to go flying at that 7. Stand up, almost stand back up in front of the 7, but still miss it.
The reason why he is rejoicing and pointing to us is the fact that he has converted a 1-pin spare. The last time he was on ESPN,
he missed 2 or 3 of them.
Lots of problems. John Hersina told me in practice as he watched Robert stand up and throw a strike, he said if this guy improved his spare shooting, he'd be in the top 5 virtually every week. Throws that many strikes. Uh-oh.
Well, if he converts this spare, he's really going to show us something. There's his wife.
Well, let's see what Robert comes up with here. Try and bounce it out.
Hard and straight at one of them. Although he, you know, even when he tries to throw it straight, it hooks.
Couldn't get it out. Ah, there's Robert's wife. I was going to say that looked a lot like Mrs. Gurney to me, but well, I was going to hold off there on. Ah, there you see her. Barry Gurney's wife. Of course, he'll be in the next match. All these lovely ladies tonight. A lot of wives on hand tonight. Of course, most of the senior wives travel with their husbands.
Well, they like the Naples area. You know, it's
well,
a nice
that's a good
area.
point, too. You're not kidding. Oh, Ron Winger having one of those nights where, regardless of how he throws it or where he throws it, he's struggling just to hit the pocket at this point. And believe you me, the players threw plenty of strikes here this week.
And what happens, you know, sometimes when the players practice for an hour, and in that hour, the balls act as a transport for the oil to carry it down the lane. And that changes the condition that they're bowling on. Suddenly, at a period of time, you know, at 40, 45 minutes, they do what they call lose the back ends. The ball suddenly won't finish at the back ends, especially for a guy like Ron. I really think he needs to make a move to get right of that oil and try and find some place where the ball's going to hook.
All right, but from the players' side of things, they used to only practice 45 minutes and sometimes even 30 minutes, but the players keep wanting more and more practice time so that the lanes end up close to where they're supposed to be. I mean, you know, do you cut the practice time? And tough decision.
It is.
All right, there's a strike for Ron Winger, who says, I'm not dead yet in this thing. I've made the adjustment. Robert Gibbs is just hoping for another title here in Naples. Back live from Woodside Lanes in Naples, Florida. Robert Gibbs steps up in the 6th frame, leading by 32.
And as we were chatting with ourselves between things, you know, this match is not over yet because Robert can string strikes, but he can also, unfortunately, string opens. And he says, don't ever shoot a spare that way.
Surefire way.